Hello everyone, and welcome to Wicked Encounters, where we explore just what goes bump in the night. I'm your host, Allie, and it's every horror, supernatural, or cryptid lover's favorite month of the year, October! In celebration of the spookiest month, and because I'm a horror nut, I've compiled a list of videos that I think are worth sharing with you guys, and I'm calling it the 31 Days of Wicked Horror. I know, not a very creative name, but so what? At least you get the point, right? So first things first. We all know Halloween, Nosferatu, Night of the Living Dead, and The Thing are absolute chef's kiss when it comes to horror. So I'm setting a time limit for this series. I personally like to see what other horror movies are out there that are more recent, so I can stay up to date on my horror movies. So on our first go at this, none of the videos are going to be older than 20 years. If you don't like that, well, there's plenty of Halloween must-watch lists out there, so see what they have to offer. Secondly, I'll be providing the synopsis and plot of the movies for those who may not like surprises or just want to listen to what the movies are about. There'll be a slide letting you know when we're coming up on it, for spoilers, and I'll let you know where it's safe to click on in the timestamp here, and the chapters in the timeline. Also, while many of the movies are streaming, I'm not going to really provide the info on where you can watch them, because it varies based on where you live. And also, streaming services love removing and adding movies like there's no tomorrow. I will say though, if you're interested in renting them, they are 100% worth the cost in my opinion. Or just outright buy them. Why not? Show some horror movie support. Finally, I'm going to give you some reasons as to why the movie stands out, and why I think you'll like it. Alright? So first on our list is Hereditary. Hereditary is a 2018 American psychological horror film that was written and directed by Ari Aster as his feature directorial debut and produced by A24, who definitely has an eye for good horror, and Hereditary is a great example. Hereditary is a disturbing exploration of family trauma, mental illness, and the horrifying legacy passed down through generations. It blends supernatural horror with deeply human fears, culminating in a narrative that is as tragic as it is terrifying. The film's complex characters, emotional depth, and shocking twists make it a standout in modern horror cinema. The movie's a great one to watch curled up under a blanket on a dark, rainy night with the lights off. But why? What makes Hereditary stand out? First and foremost is its atmospheric dread. Hereditary is masterful in building a suspense of dread and unease from the very beginning. The film's slow burn approach allows tension to simmer, creating an atmosphere that feels suffocating and inescapable. The use of sound, lighting, and cinematography all contribute to this pervasive feeling of horror. Unlike many horror films that focus solely on scares, Hereditary delves deeply into the themes of grief, family trauma, and mental illness. The characters' emotional journeys are as important as the supernatural elements, making their experiences all the more horrifying and relatable. The exploration of generational trauma adds a layer of psychological horror that resonates on a deeper level. The film features complex, flawed characters who react to the terrifying events in a deeply human way. Toni Collette's performance as Annie is especially noteworthy, as she portrays a mother on the brink of a mental breakdown, with raw intensity and vulnerability. Her portrayal adds a level of realism that makes the horror more impactful. And we all know the trope where if you're a minority, you're not gonna make it, and if you show your boobs, you're gonna die real soon in the next few minutes. Speaking of that, Hereditary is unpredictable and unafraid to break conventional horror movie rules. The narrative takes shocking turns that catch the audience off guard, such as the unexpected tragedy that involves Charlie. These moments contribute to a sense of instability, keeping viewers on edge throughout the entire film. Do you like symbolism in your movies? 'Cause let me tell you, the film is rich with symbolism and subtext, inviting viewers to unpack its layers long after the credits roll. Themes of destiny, inherited sin, and the influence of unseen forces are woven throughout the story, making it more than just a straightforward horror film. The use of occult imagery and the gradual reveal of the family's dark history add depth and complexity to the horror. And of course, every good horror movie needs great visual and auditory craftsmanship. Director Ari Aster utilizes meticulous framing and unsettling sound design, as well as haunting visuals to create a distinctive aesthetic. The use of miniatures and the way scenes transition between real life and dioramas blur the lines between reality and illusion, enhancing the film's eerie tone. Hereditary stands out as a modern horror classic because it combines genuine psychological terror with supernatural elements, all while telling a deeply personal and tragic story. Its ability to evoke raw emotion and its bold, uncompromising approach to horror makes it a film that lingers in the mind long after it's viewed. Now let's get to the plot. Unless you're skipping, in which case, see you in just a second. Hereditary opens with the death of Ellen Lee, the matriarch of the Graham family. Ellen's daughter, Annie Graham, delivers a eulogy at the funeral, expressing a complex relationship with her secretive and distant mother. Ellen's death marks the beginning of a series of increasingly disturbing and tragic events that unravel the family. Annie lives with her husband, Steve, their teenage son, Peter, and their 13-year-old daughter, Charlie. Charlie is a peculiar child, exhibiting odd behaviors such as crafting eerie dolls and displaying a strong attachment to her grandmother, Ellen. As the family copes with Ellen's death, strange occurrences begin to plague their home. Charlie, in particular, senses a malevolent presence and begins to act more erratically. One night, Peter reluctantly takes Charlie to a high school party where she accidentally ingests nuts, something that she is severely allergic to, which causes her to go into anaphylactic shock. In a panic, Peter drives her home, but as Charlie struggles to breathe, she sticks her head out of the car window to get air. In a horrifying twist, Peter swerves to avoid an animal in the road, and Charlie is decapitated by a telephone pole. Peter, in shock, drives home and leaves Charlie's body in the car for his parents to find the next morning. This tragedy sends the family into a deeper spiral of grief and despair. As a quick pause for the plot right here, I actually had something very similar happen to some people in my high school. They were seniors. I believe they were drunk. And one guy decided to roll down his window and stick his entire head and body, like upper body, outside of the window. And you know those green road signs? I mean, everybody's seen them, but yeah. It took his head. It wasn't green anymore. It was red. All right, back to the plot. Annie, who is already struggling with the loss of her mother, becomes increasingly unhinged. She attends a grief support group where she meets a woman named Joan, who claims to have lost her own child. Joan introduces Annie to a seance ritual that allows her to communicate with Charlie. Skeptical yet desperate, Annie tries the seance at home, where strange and terrifying phenomena occur, convincing the family that Charlie's spirit has returned. As Annie investigates her mother's past, she discovers a hidden box of Ellen's belongings, including a photo album and a book on spiritualism. The photos reveal that Ellen was deeply involved in a cult and had a mysterious connection to Joan. Annie also discovers disturbing letters indicating that Ellen was preparing her family for a sinister purpose. The haunting escalates, and Annie realizes that she has unwittingly unleashed something far more malevolent than Charlie's spirit. She begins to uncover the truth. Ellen was a high-ranking member of a cult dedicated to summoning a demon named Paimon, one of the kings of hell. The cult's goal was to find a male host for Paimon, and Ellen had been grooming her family for this very purpose. Annie becomes increasingly paranoid and disturbed, clashing with Peter, who also experiences terrifying supernatural events. At the same time, poor Steve tries to maintain order, but he cannot ignore the growing chaos and danger within their home. In a climactic and horrifying sequence, Annie becomes possessed and murders Steve in front of Peter, who is now the primary target of the cult's ritual. As Peter flees in terror, he encounters the cult members, naked and chanting in the attic. In a final, shocking moment, Peter's body becomes possessed by Paimon, completing the ritual that Ellen and the cult had orchestrated all along. The film ends with the now possessed Peter, crowned by the cult, standing before a statue of Paimon in the treehouse, surrounded by the corpses of his family. Joan and the other cult members praise Paimon, welcoming him into the human world, as the camera pans out, leaving the audience with a haunting sense of inevitability and doom. Hi there, hi, hello, hey all you skippers! I'm glad you're holding out to see the movie for yourself, and I hope you'll let me know what you think of the movie in the comments once you've done so. For everyone else, I hope the plot sounded interesting enough for you to see it yourself, because it genuinely is a trip. In fact, I'm probably going to go watch it right now because, well, it's October. This is the time to watch horror movies. Granted, I think any time is the time to watch horror movies, just ask my husband. He once posted that he knew I was relaxing because he heard terrified screams coming from the bedroom, and goddammit, he was right. Now, I have 30 more movies I'd love to share with you. What do you think they could be? How do you feel about Hereditary being on the list? Would it make it onto yours? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to discuss horror movies with you all, so feel free to join the Wicked Encounters Discord group. If you like what I do and want to support me, maybe consider liking the video, subscribing to the channel, and clicking the little bell icon so you know when I post. If you want to support me in other ways, maybe check out my Patreon. I post progress images of the illustrations you see here, and the more support I have, the more content I can provide there. Speaking of patrons, I'd like to give a big thank you to mine, Nakala and Beefalump. You guys are the bee's knees. Well, that's all I've got time for today. Until next time, I'm Allie, this is Wicked Encounters, and I'll see you next time. Bye!